Hello, little dreamers. Tonight's story takes us far across the stars, where a silly alien crash lands right into a place full of chocolate. Let's find out what happens to Zog and the sweetest mistake he ever made. Zog and the Chocolate Crash. Far, far away on planet Blip lived an alien named Zog. He had 3 eyes, 7 toes, and the world's largest collection of Earth socks. But he wanted more. Time to zoom to Earth and find the fluffiest socks in the galaxy, Zog shouted, jumping into his wobbly spaceship. There was just one tiny problem. Zog had never learned how to land, not even once. So when he reached Earth's atmosphere, he spun, flipped, and crashed straight into a strange brick building. Thump! Smash! Sploosh! Zog peeked out the window. "This is not a sock shop," he muttered. "It smells delicious." Zog stepped out and found himself surrounded by rivers of chocolate, mountains of marshmallows, and conveyor belts carrying gooey caramel cubes. He blinked. He sniffed. He licked a truffle. Then his eyes lit up like laser beams. Boom, blop, bing. This is flavor magic. He cheered. Zog couldn't help himself. He gobbled a fudge bar, crunched a sprinkle-covered cookie, and dove face first into a vat of melted nougat. Chocolate sprayed everywhere. Syrup dripped from the ceiling. Zog giggled and rolled in the caramel like Happy Space Slug. "Earth is amazing," he yelled with his mouth full. Suddenly, the factory lights flickered. A loud voice called out, "Who's eating all the samples?" A worker entered the room and gasped, "Ah, a green jelly bean is bathing in the brownie mix." "I'm not a jelly bean. I'm Zog, Chief Chocolate Explorer," he said, wearing a marshmallow as a hat. Instead of running away, the workers just stared. Zog did a cartwheel through whipped cream. Then he burped a bubble that smelled like peanut butter. The factory owner finally arrived. He rubbed his chin and said, "Well, he's weird, but he clearly loves chocolate." And so, Zog was offered a job. He became the chief chocolate tester and invented wild new flavors like glittery galactic goo and fizzy fudge blastoff. He wore chocolate-covered boots, a peanut butter apron, and always smiled, mostly because his teeth were stuck together with toffee. From that day on, Zog forgot all about socks. He had found something even better. If you ever visit a chocolate factory and see a sign that says, "Out of this world fudge," you'll know who made it. Zog, the alien who crash-landed on Earth and stayed for dessert. Thank you for listening to tonight's story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your best friends. And maybe, just maybe, you'll fall in love with reading and stories as much as Zog fell in love with chocolate. Sweet dreams, and we'll see you in the next bedtime adventure on Simply Sleep.
The time-traveling toothbrush. Every night, just before bed, Timmy brushed his teeth. He had space pajamas, a sleepy grin, and the silliest bedhead in the universe. Nothing ever changed until it did. One evening, as Timmy picked up his toothbrush, he noticed something strange. It glowed. Not just a little glow, a magical, swirling, starry kind of glow. "Whoa," he whispered, as soon as the bristles touched his teeth. "Zoom!" The bathroom spun like a merry-go-round. Tiles turned to sand, and the mirror melted into sunlight. Timmy blinked. He was in the desert, standing in warm, golden sand. Huge pyramids rose behind him. 2 camels stared, chewing lazily. A pharaoh in dazzling robes stepped forward. "You're just in time," he said grandly. "We're having our toothbrush blessing ceremony." Timmy smiled and held up his toothbrush proudly. The pharaoh bowed. Even the camels bowed. Golden light beamed around Timmy like he was the sun itself. But then, zing, he brushed again and landed in the future. Chrome buildings stretched into the sky. Toothbrush drones zipped through the air, and a shiny robot rolled up with a glowing screen face. "Welcome, Master Brusher," the robot said with a digital grin. "We admire your technique." Timmy floated gently above the sidewalk, amazed by the lights, the bots, the sparkle of everything. One more brush. Whoosh! Now Timmy was on a rocky pirate ship. Seagulls cawed. Waves crashed. A parrot with a tiny toothbrush in its claw squawked, "Brush or walk the plank." The pirate captain roared with laughter. "Ye be the finest brusher I've seen. Join our crew. We brush after every meal." Timmy laughed so hard he almost dropped his toothbrush. "Time to go home," Timmy whispered. He gave one final brush, and blink, he was back in his bathroom. The sink was still there, the cup of water too. Only the gentle twinkle of his toothbrush remained. He hopped into bed, pulling up his rocket blanket. The toothbrush sat quietly on the counter. But just for a second, Timmy thought he saw it wink. He grinned and whispered, "I wonder where we'll go tomorrow night." And with that thought, Timmy closed his eyes and dreamed of pyramids, robots, and parrots with perfect teeth. That's the end of another magical adventure with Timmy and his time-traveling toothbrush. Thank you, little explorers, for coming back to join us tonight. If you loved this story and want to hear more bedtime adventures just like it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We've got so many more stories waiting just for you. And remember, brushing your teeth and flossing every day is just as important as reading. It keeps your smile bright, your teeth sparkly white, and your breath fresh as a fairy's giggle. So, until next time, we wish you good health, a dazzling clean smile, and the sweetest dreams ever. Good night, superstar.
Felix the Fox and the Great Night Library. Deep in the heart of the forest, where trees whispered secrets and fireflies danced like stars, lived a clever little fox named Felix. He wore round reading glasses and a cozy forest scarf, and he was always curious. One crisp, moonlit night, Felix noticed something strange. A faint glow shimmered between the trees. It pulsed like a heartbeat, calling softly. He adjusted his glasses. "What's that?" he whispered. With quiet steps, Felix followed the light through the ferns and moss. Owls hooted gently overhead. Crickets hushed their song. And then he saw it. A grand stone arch stood where there had never been one before. Vines wrapped around towering bookshelves. Lanterns floated in midair, glowing gold. At the top, carved into the arch, were three magical words: "The Night Library." Felix's eyes widened. He stepped inside. The moment he did, the air shimmered like a dream. Books lined every tree, every root, every hollow log. A book fluttered open on its own. Whoosh! Felix gasped as a swirl of stardust rose from its pages, forming pictures in the air, castles, dragons, faraway lands. One by one, the books around him began to glow. Each one whispered a different story. Each one invited him in. Felix reached for the nearest one, his paw trembling with excitement. He read about pirate ships that sailed the clouds. He read about a penguin who danced on the moon. He even found a story about a fox, just like him, discovering a hidden library. He chuckled. Time passed like the turning of a page, and when the moon began to dip, the books gently closed themselves, and the golden lanterns dimmed. Felix tiptoed out of the library, his heart full of wonder. The arch behind him slowly faded into mist, as if it had never been there at all. But he knew the truth. Back at home, Felix curled up with his own favorite book. He smiled, his glasses slipping slightly down his nose. "Books really are magic," he whispered, "and I can't wait for the next full moon." That night, he dreamed of adventures in faraway lands, enchanted forests, and talking clouds. And in the corner of every dream, a book was always waiting to be opened. That was the magical tale of Felix the Fox and the Great Night Library, a story that reminds us how books can take us anywhere if we're just curious enough to open the first page. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We hope you had a wonderful time adventuring with Felix. Be on the lookout for the next bedtime story. And don't forget to invite your friends to join too, because stories are always better when we share them. Make sure to like, subscribe, and drift off to sleep with dreams full of magic and books. And who knows, maybe your next adventure is just a page away. Good night, dreamer.
In a quiet little cottage, nestled beneath a hill full of daisies, lived a gentle old lady named Mrs. Tilly. She had white fluffy hair, round glasses, and always wore cozy cardigans with pockets full of toffees. Every day felt the same, until one very unusual morning. Mrs. Tilly opened her curtains and gasped. All across her garden, little sparkles shimmered in the morning light. They weren't raindrops, they weren't sunbeams, they were moving. Tiny lights flitting about like butterflies made of stardust. She blinked and rubbed her eyes behind her glasses. "Good gracious," she whispered. "I think I can see fairies." She shuffled to the kitchen to make her morning tea, but as she lifted her cup, "Careful," came a tiny voice. Inside the cup, sitting cross-legged on a sugar cube, was a fairy in a petal dress, wings glowing like soap bubbles. "I'm Petal. Pleased to meet you." The fairy beamed. Mrs. Tilly nearly dropped the cup. "A talking sparkle?" Petal giggled. "No, a fairy. And I think today you can finally see us." Petal fluttered onto Mrs. Tilly's shoulder. "Would you like to see our world?" Mrs. Tilly's eyes lit up with wonder. "Oh yes, please." They stepped outside, and suddenly the garden transformed. Mushrooms grew little doors. Snails wore tiny hats. Roses whispered lullabies. And in the middle of it all stood a unicorn as white as snow, with a mane full of wildflowers. The unicorn bowed. "Welcome, Mrs. Tilly. We've been waiting." Mrs. Tilly rode on the unicorn's back, with Petal guiding the way. They galloped through forests made of candy canes and rivers that sang lullabies. She drank tea with bees in bonnets. She played hide and seek with glowing frogs. She even learned how to flutter, just a little, when Petal sprinkled fairy dust on her shoes. And for the first time in many years, Mrs. Tilly laughed so hard she snorted. As the sun dipped behind the hills, Petal and the unicorn led Mrs. Tilly home. "Will I see you again?" she asked softly. Petal smiled. "Now that your heart is open, you'll see us whenever you truly believe." The unicorn nuzzled her hand, and just like that, they vanished into sparkles. The next day, Mrs. Tilly's garden looked just the same, but she smiled differently now. She baked tiny biscuits and left saucers of milk on the windowsill. She wore fresh daisies in her hair, and sometimes just sometimes. If you looked closely, you'd see a sparkle land on her shoulder and hear the tiniest giggle on the breeze. Because magic never leaves you once you believe. Thank you for listening to tonight's magical story. We hope it brought a little sparkle to your dreams. Be sure to subscribe to Simply Sleep for more bedtime adventures. And don't forget to invite your friends to join the magic too. We'll see you next time. And who knows, maybe you'll spot a fairy too. Good night.
The best teacher in the world. In a quiet little town stood a cheerful old school with squeaky floors and big windows. Inside, in room 6B, sat a wise and gentle teacher named Mrs. Maple. She wore round glasses, had snow-white hair in a bun, and always smelled like peppermint and books. One rainy afternoon, Mrs. Maple looked around her classroom. Every child looked bored. Some stared out the window, others doodled in their notebooks. A few even sighed out loud as she tried to teach them about ancient history. Mrs. Maple smiled kindly. She closed the textbook with a soft thud. "All right," she said. "Time for something a little different." The children looked up, curious. She walked to her old wooden desk and slowly opened the bottom drawer. Out came a beautiful leather-bound book, thick and shiny with golden edges. Its cover shimmered with soft sparkles, even though the classroom lights were dim. "Come, gather close," Mrs. Maple whispered. "This book has stories older than time and far more exciting than anything in our workbooks." The children eagerly left their desks and sat on the big rug at her feet. Their eyes grew wide with wonder. She opened the book. Whoosh! A warm, glowing light floated up from the pages like fairy dust. And suddenly, the classroom began to change. "The wind blew across the golden sands," Mrs. Maple read, as the brave traveler stood before the mighty pyramids of ancient Egypt. And just like that, the children felt the desert heat. They heard camels groan and saw the sun glint off stone. Next, she turned the page. In the heart of Rome, the streets buzzed with voices and sandals echoed on stone. They looked around. There were togas and temples, columns and chariots. The children gasped, "It's like we're really there!" They soared across the Great Wall of China, wandered the temples of India, and hiked the snowy steps of Machu Picchu. With every turn of the page, they traveled somewhere new, all from their rug on the floor of room 6B. When the story ended, the book gently closed itself. The classroom returned to normal. The glowing light faded, but the children's eyes still sparkled. "Miss Maple," one child said, "can we do that again tomorrow?" Another added, "That was way better than the workbook." She smiled and nodded. "Stories," she said, "help us remember. They help us feel. That's how real learning begins." And from that day on, the students couldn't wait to go to school. Because every week, Mrs. Maple would open her magical book and take them on a new adventure. And every week, they learned more than they ever had before. The world's most magical lessons begin with just one page. That's the end of today's magical story. Thank you, dear children, for joining us on this adventure with Mrs. Maple and her wonderful class. We hope you felt the wonder, the warmth, and the magic that stories can bring. Remember, every book holds a new world inside, just waiting for you to turn the first page. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep exploring, and never stop imagining. Tell your friends to join us next time too,
and let's all fall in love with stories together. Good night, and we'll see you soon on Simply Sleep.
Tales Under the Tree. In the heart of a quiet forest stood a great old tree. Its bark was thick and wrinkled, its branches reached for the sky, and its roots curled deep into the earth like sleepy fingers. Children who passed by called it the thinking tree, but none of them knew its secret. One sunny afternoon, a curious boy named Leo wandered through the forest. He loved the way the leaves danced in the sunlight and the way the breeze whispered through the branches. As he stepped closer to the big tree, something strange happened. The ground beneath his feet gave a quiet creak. Crack! Leo gasped as the earth opened beneath him and he tumbled down into the darkness. He landed with a soft thud on moss. Leo sat up, a little dizzy, but what he saw made his eyes grow wide. Books. Thousands and thousands of books. He was inside a hidden underground library. The walls were carved from earth and tree roots, but the shelves were neatly lined with the most beautiful books he'd ever seen. Some books glowed, others sparkled, a few floated gently in the air. Leo picked one up. As he opened it, a swirl of golden dust rose into the air. He could see the story. Dragons flying, oceans singing, kings and queens and magical creatures, each page more wondrous than the last. Leo read one story, then another, and another. Time slipped by like a dream, but eventually he yawned and stretched. "I should go home before Mom worries," he whispered. He looked up, and there it was. The hole he'd fallen through was still open above him. A ladder leaned gently against the wall, carved from smooth branches and vine. He climbed carefully, still holding the wonder of the stories in his heart. When he reached the top, Leo pulled the roots over the hole to hide it again. He gave the tree a little pat. "Thank you," he said softly. Then he ran home as fast as he could. That evening, Leo told his mom he had found the most magical place in the world. But of course, she thought he was just using his imagination. And maybe he was. But the very next day, Leo went back to the tree. He slipped beneath the roots, down the hidden ladder, and into his secret library. Every day he read a new story. Every day he picked a new adventure. And at school, Leo became the boy with the best stories. He told them with wide eyes and big smiles. His friends loved them and begged for more. No one knew where his magical stories came from. But Leo did. Under the big tree in the forest, his very own library was waiting. A library full of stories just for him. And maybe, just maybe, if you listen closely when you walk by a big old tree, you might hear the whispers of a book waiting to be read. Thank you, dear friends, for joining us on another wonderful adventure. We're so glad you came to hear today's magical story. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a bedtime tale. And now, close your eyes, snuggle in tight, and let your dreams take you somewhere amazing. Good night and sweet dreams from all of us at Simply Sleep.
This story is dedicated to all the brave children starting school for the first time or beginning at a new one. It's also a tribute to the amazing teachers who know just how to make every child feel welcome, safe, and right at home. Noah's big first day. Noah sat on the edge of his bed, holding his backpack tightly. Today was his very first day of school. His tummy felt wobbly, like a jellyfish dancing in the waves. "What if the kids don't like me?" he whispered. His mum knelt beside him and gave him a gentle hug. "Oh, Noah," she said, "you are kind, clever, and friendly. That's more than enough. Just be yourself, and don't forget to smile." Noah nodded slowly. Maybe it would be okay. He put on his shoes and held his mum's hand all the way to the school gates. The school looked big, really big. Noah held his breath as he stepped inside. There were children everywhere, talking, laughing, building towers, drawing fish and stars. He wanted to turn and run back to his mom. But then someone knelt down with a warm smile. "Hello there. You must be Noah," said the teacher. "I'm Miss Leela. I saved a special seat just for you, right next to my desk." Miss Lila had sparkly dolphin earrings and eyes that smiled even before her mouth did. Noah's heart felt just a little bit lighter. During story time, Miss Lila read a book about sea turtles. Noah's hand shot into the air. "Sea turtles can hold their breath for 5 hours," he said excitedly. The whole class turned to look at him. "Whoa," said a boy with glasses. "That's awesome," said a girl with braids. "You're really smart," someone whispered. Noah blushed, but he smiled wide. Maybe school wasn't so scary after all. After snack time, Miss Lila clapped her hands. "Time to meet someone very special. Our class pet." She opened a little house in the corner, and out walked the slowest, sleepiest tortoise Noah had ever seen. "This is Tango," Miss Lila said. "He loves greens, slow walks, and gentle hands. Would you like to feed him today, Noah?" Noah's eyes lit up. "Yes, please." He carefully placed some lettuce on a tiny dish and watched as Tango slowly munched with a happy crunch. At the end of the day, Noah's mom was waiting at the gate. She opened her arms as he ran to her with a giant grin. "How was it?" she asked. "It was amazing," Noah said. "I fed a tortoise, made new friends, and even told everyone about sea turtles." His mum laughed and hugged him tight. "Can I go back tomorrow?" Noah asked. "Please?" "Of course, my brave boy," she said. The next morning, Noah jumped out of bed. No more jellyfish feelings in his tummy, only excitement. He couldn't wait to learn something new. He couldn't wait to play with his new friends. And he definitely couldn't wait to see Tango again. School wasn't scary anymore. It was full of stories, smiles, and slow-moving tortoises with big hearts. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us on Noah's big adventure today. We hope his story made you smile and reminded you that even when something feels scary at first, it can turn into something truly wonderful. School is a place for learning, laughter, and new friends. And maybe even a tortoise named Tango. Make sure to come back soon for another bedtime story full of wonder, kindness, and dreams. And don't forget to tell your friends to join us too. Sleep tight, little dreamers, from all of us at Simply Sleep. Good night.
Liam's Backyard Zoo. In a cozy little house at the edge of a leafy green town lived a boy named Liam. Liam wasn't like most kids. While others ran away from bugs or frogs, Liam ran toward them, smiling, curious, and absolutely delighted. He loved nature, especially geckos, frogs, and spiders. Liam had a special talent. He could spot a camouflage gecko on a tree trunk from across the garden. "Mom," he'd shout, "I found Gary. He's doing push-ups again." His mom would peek out the kitchen window with a nervous smile. "Uh-huh, that's great, honey. Let's keep Gary outside this time, okay?" Even Liam's dad, who was super brave about most things, was terrified of frogs. One evening at dinner, Liam tiptoed into the kitchen with a box behind his back. "Want to meet Mr. Croaks-a-lot?" he asked with a grin. Before anyone could answer, ribbit! A big green frog leapt out of the box and straight into the mashed potatoes. Dad shouted, holding up a spoon like a sword. "The dinner is jumping." Liam giggled so hard he nearly fell off his chair. "Don't worry, Dad. He just wanted some gravy." Mom didn't even blink. She pointed at the frog and said, "Liam, take Mr. Croak-a-Lot back outside right now, unless you want frog legs for supper." Liam scooped up the frog in a flash. Okay, no need to turn him into dinner." Liam always had someone in his pocket or sock. Once at school, a tiny spider peeked out of his sleeve during story time. "Liam," his teacher said, eyeing the 8 tiny legs, "is your shirt wiggling?" Liam smiled. "It's just Webberella. She loves stories with webs." Another time, a gecko popped out of his lunchbox and ran across the principal's desk. It licked its eyeball and winked. The principal never opened Liam's lunchbox again. One rainy afternoon, Liam heard a soft ribbit from the gutter. He ran outside in his superhero cape, one rain boot on and the other missing. A little frog was stuck. Liam gently scooped him up and said, "You're free now, Sir Jump-a-Lot. Go hop like the wind." Ribbit, which probably meant "Thank you, noble knight." Liam's love for creatures gave him an idea. "I'll throw a wild pet parade," he shouted. He spent all afternoon preparing. Gary the gecko rode a skateboard. Princess Webberella the spider sat on a fancy leaf float. Mr. Croak-a-Lot bounced proudly in a tiny teacup chariot. Mom brought lemonade. Dad wore swimming goggles, just in case. "Do any of these jump?" Dad asked nervously. Liam grinned. "Only the fun ones?" The parade marched around the backyard, Liam leading the way in his explorer hat. That night, Liam sat on the porch with a gecko on his shoulder, a frog on his knee, and a sleepy spider dozing in his palm. The stars twinkled, the crickets chirped, and all his little friends were safe and happy. "Most people are scared of creatures like you," Liam whispered. "But I'm not. I understand you." His mom gave him a hug. "You have a wild, wonderful heart, Liam." And she was right, because in a world full of people who scream at spiders and frogs, Liam was their friend, their protector, their critter king. And if you ever find a little gecko blinking at you from your wall, it might just be one of Liam's pals. That's the story of Liam and his wild, wiggly, wonderful pet parade. Thank you so much for listening, little explorers. If you enjoyed this adventure, don't forget to like the story and subscribe to our channel for more magical tales every week. We can't wait to share more bedtime adventures with you. Now close your eyes, little explorer. Sweet dreams and watch where you step. A frog might be watching. Good night.
Hannah the Pink Dolphin. Once upon a tide, in the sparkling blue waters of Coral Bay, there lived a dolphin unlike any other. Her name was Hannah, and she was bright pink. While other dolphins were gray and glided through the sea in matching schools, Hannah always stood out. Wherever she swam, curious eyes would follow. Some sea creatures whispered. Others simply stared. Hannah tried to ignore them, but deep down, she felt a little lonely. Instead of playing games like the other dolphins, Hannah spent her days helping. If a sea turtle had a cracked shell, Hannah would guide it to the healing kelp forest. If a jellyfish got tangled in trash, she would carefully unwrap it with her fins. She even started gathering bottles, wrappers, and junk left behind by humans to clean the ocean bit by bit. One afternoon, while tugging a crumpled snack bag out of a coral reef, Hannah heard a soft squish behind her. "Need a tentacle?" came a bubbly voice. She turned and saw a shimmering octopus with glimmering skin that changed colors every second. Green, blue, yellow, purple. "I'm Ollie," the octopus said with a friendly wink. "You're Hannah, right? The pink dolphin who helps everyone?" Hannah blinked. "That's me. Though not everyone thinks that's a good thing." "Well, I think it's awesome," said Ollie. Then, with a wriggle and a whirl, his skin flashed pink, exactly Hannah's shade. "Ta-da! Now you're not the only pink sea creature." Hannah's mouth opened in surprise, then curved into the biggest smile she'd had in weeks. From that day on, Hannah and Ollie were inseparable. They played, they helped, and they cleaned. And slowly, something began to change. A shy seahorse joined them during coral cleanup. A grouchy old crab asked Hannah to help fix his broken claw. Even the dolphins who once ignored her started nodding in greeting. One day, a young dolphin swam up to her. "I like your color," she said shyly. "It makes you look magical." Hannah's heart soared. By the end of that year, the animals of Coral Bay saw Hannah not just as the pink dolphin, but as the dolphin with the biggest heart in the ocean. And every so often, Ollie would change back to pink just to make Hannah giggle. Being different can feel lonely at first, but kindness, courage, and a beautiful heart shine brighter than anything else. Even the brightest pink. Remember, little ocean heroes. If you clean up after yourself and recycle, you make Hannah the pink dolphin very, very happy. Who knows? Maybe one day, if the ocean is sparkling clean, Hannah will leap high out of the water just for you, a flash of pink against the sky. And you'll know you helped make that moment happen. Thank you for listening to another bedtime story. If you like the story and would like to hear more, please like and subscribe. And now, sweet dreams about the most amazing, kind-hearted pink dolphin in the sea.
The Moonlight Train. Every night, when the world goes quiet and the stars peek out, a magical train appears on a silver track across the sky. But only the bravest dreamers ever find a ticket. In a quiet little town, where sleepy houses lined sleepy streets, a boy named Leo sat in bed staring at the ceiling. He wasn't tired. He wasn't dreaming. He was thinking. "Trains in the sky," he mumbled. "That's just a silly story." Every night, Leo's grandpa told him tales of a magical train that rolled across silver tracks in the stars. "A train that visits only the bravest dreamers," Grandpa would say with a twinkle in his eye. Leo always rolled his eyes. "That's not real," he'd reply. "Isn't it?" Grandpa would smile. That night, Leo fluffed his pillow and curled under his rocket blanket, but something sharp poked his cheek. He reached under his pillow, and there it was, a tiny, glowing ticket with his name written in gold letters. Leo Moonlight Express. One way. Leo bolted upright and ran to the window. Outside, silver tracks shimmered down from the moon, winding through the clouds like a glittering snake. And at the end of the track, a shining train waited, puffing quiet clouds of stardust. A tall figure stepped off the train. It was a cat, wearing a navy blue conductor's uniform, round spectacles, and a golden pocket watch. "Mr. Leo," the cat purred, "you're right on time. Welcome aboard the Moonlight Express." Leo gulped, but stepped outside. The train door hissed open. Warm light spilled out, and gentle music floated through the night. Leo climbed aboard. Inside, velvet seats sparkled with stardust. Lanterns floated like fireflies. Everything shimmered. And Leo's doubt began to fade. "Next stop," called the conductor. "Wonder!" The train rolled forward, rising into the stars. The first carriage opened to a vast ocean. But in the sky, flying whales danced in slow loops. They sang in deep, echoing hums. Leo gasped. "Whales can fly? Up here?" said the conductor. "Anything can." The next car was a glowing library. Books fluttered like birds, whispering stories into the air. One flew into Leo's hands and opened by itself. Inside was a drawing of him, not who he was, but who he could be. Then came the mirror car. Mirrors lined the walls from top to bottom, but one reflection didn't match him. It was taller, braver, wiser. Leo stared. "You're braver than you think," the reflection said gently. "You just have to believe it." Suddenly, a soft cry echoed from the final car. Leo ran inside. A baby star sat on the floor, glowing faintly and sniffing. I can't find my constellation," it whimpered. Leo knelt beside it. "Don't worry, I'll help." With the conductor's telescope and the clues from the library, Leo searched the sky. "There," he pointed. "Right above the Big Dipper?" The baby star twinkled with joy and zipped out the window, rejoining its sparkling family. "You believed in me," it whispered as it floated away. "Now, believe in yourself." The train gently slowed. The tracks curled downward like a ribbon of moonlight. Leo rubbed his eyes. The seats began to fade. The stars blurred. And suddenly, he was back in bed. The morning sun peeked through his curtains. His pillow was soft, his rocket blanket warm. But on his nightstand sat the glowing ticket, now faded but real. And Leo smiled. From that day on, Leo believed in a lot more than he used to. He believed in whales that fly, books that whisper, and stars that get lost. Most of all, he believed in himself. So if you ever find a golden ticket under your pillow, don't be afraid. The Moonlight Train is waiting, and your adventure is just beginning. Close your eyes, little stars, until our next adventure.